what would I do if I had 3 hours of time to myself? And I was on a call yesterday with a client who, when it hit her, she sat there and she's like, I can't answer that question. This is so typical of reactive living and reactive leadership. The spaciousness of actually having the life you say you want feels so scary that you'll sabotage yourself from having it.
Welcome to In Her Words. This podcast is for women navigating through change, career, identity, motherhood, and just figuring out what's next. I'm Roberta Dombrowski, host of In Her Words and founder of Learn Mindfully. Each episode, I sit down with women who are asking big questions, navigating transitions, and trying to make sense of life as it shifts. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need space to be real. Let's get into it. With me today, I have Dr. Alessandra Wall. She is a psychologist, author, and CEO of Noteworthy. She's served as a trusted advisor to leaders, founders, and exceptional women, helping them make better decisions at every level of their career and life so they can maintain the drive, desire, bandwidth, and fulfillment they need to change the world for better. Welcome, Dr. Wall.
I am so happy to be on the show.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you today. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. I know that you're a clinical psychologist by training, but I'm wondering if you can walk listeners through some of kind of your major career highlights and where you are now.
Sure. I started my career as a child clinical psychologist. I very specifically I wanted to work with kids because kids don't have much agency or they don't feel like they
Yeah.
have much agency. And it's going to be really hard to feel like there's hope or you have power to do things when you're in a system that is governed by a lot of other more powerful beings than you, namely your parents. And I loved it for so long. And then I had my own kids and I'm like, oh, this is not as much fun. And that's something we'll bring about quite a bit, this idea of why I shifted and like this is not as much fun. And people always think it's because I was seeing children who were struggling and I had my own kids and maybe I was worried and projecting. It's not that. It's all the things I loved about being on the floor and playing with kids and being in their world all day long while helping them work on hard stuff. I didn't have the bandwidth to come back as a mom. And again, be on the floor at the time with a blob, right? 3, 4, 5-month-old child. Lovely blob, but the blob nonetheless, and then not have that back and forth. So I went back to adult. And all therapists are trained to be adult therapists, and then you specialize in other things. And worked very happily, built a business, super excited, went in practice for myself very soon after I got licensed, around working with perfectionists and high performing and anxious people. And again, loved it for years. I loved it. I love my job so much. I felt so lucky. And then there came a day where I didn't. Like, there literally came a day where I would notice that more often than not, when I was in sessions with people, I'd feel like suffocated. I'd want to look at my patients who I loved and cared about very deeply, but go, do something about it. Like, we've talked about what you need to do. We've talked about how you're procrastinating, like, do something about it. I was in my mid to late 30s at the time and thought, I cannot do this for another 60 years. That's not mentioning just dealing with insurance companies and all the, like, non-fun parts, like, the normal. So that was another highlight, is, like, loving something twice in a row and then twice in a row kind of falling out of love with it, and then decided that I needed to move into a new space, and the new space that made the most sense was coaching. And like everybody going through a midlife crisis, I was a life coach for a little while, but both wasn't really satisfied by that and also couldn't make any money doing it.
Yeah, it's
And
hard.
that's not the life coaching business, is that I knew nothing about how to run a business that wasn't an essential business. So therapy is an essential business. You hang your shingle, you get your degrees. If you're good enough at what you do, build it and they will come. And I thought, well, I've got the PhD in human psychology, which is necessary. I've got these years of training. It's the same skill set, just applied in a different way. I'll just build it and they'll come. Or I'll build it, I'll talk about it on Instagram, I'll do an opt-in, I'll have a podcast, I'll write blogs and they will come. And that's not the way you build a career. Burnt myself out. That was another highlight, or low light, however you want to see it. Really took 6 months off, was still running my therapy practice this whole time too, had to pay the bills, and then built what is Noteworthy now. And I mean, we're in our 7th year of Noteworthy specifically, and I love it. I love what I've built. I'm sure there will come a point No, they're already actually at the end of last year, they came to a point where I was like, "Okay, I need to shake things up a little bit," but I'm in a space where I can, like, when I notice feeling frustrated or bored, which is a big problem for me, I can stop and look, and I'm working with people who are at a place where I can pivot, and either they pivot with me or over time we build the kind of people who are gonna pivot in the direction
Yeah.
I'm moving.
Very cool, very cool. I I love your experience and your journey that you're describing of falling out of love with something because usually when we start in a new career or a new path, there's a lot of like curiosity and excitement that's there. And then over time it changes. Our values change, who we are changes, what we care about changes. And it sounds like even when you were doing the children, therapy, your values shifted a little bit. You had your own kids, and you wanted to spend time with them and being on the floor and playing, and so that meant a career shift as well.
Yeah, and you I love this point you've made. You know, when you study psychology, well, 20 some years ago when you studied psychology, and when people think about development, it's nearly like development stops at 18.
Yeah.
But the reality is, well, I'm continuing to evolve as a person. There's a core, there's a baseline to who I am that has been true since I was a little kid. You and I talked about, if there's anything I say that I want edited, I'm like, I'm somebody who probably because neurologically she's hardwired that way, I blurt stuff out. And so there's this core of this person who, for better or for worse, says what she means most of the time. Definitely means what she says if it comes out of her mouth. That is a foundation. I am somebody who's always been very curious.
Mm. I saw your
Foundation.
mug. I
Yeah,
I love
my
it.
curious
Says
mug.
curious, yeah.
I am someone who is either on or off when it comes to speaking. So I can spend long periods of time since I was a little girl just sitting and listening and not say a word for hours. Or I am in like, those are foundations to who I am. They're value foundations, but how those things get expressed, what the ranking is at any one moment, that is an ever-shifting thing, and for people in your 30s, I think it's a really, really hard concept to understand. Maybe not anymore, but we were taught that you were supposed to figure out what you wanted to do when you're in college and then get a job, and then you just stick with it, right? Because that's the thing you've learned how to do, and that's the thing you've trained to do. And in your 20s, there's this sense that when you're 30, you're gonna be old. And 30 by 30, you should have you have to have your shit together, and then by then, you're gonna be successful, but you enter your 30s and you're like, "I'm just barely figured out who I am,"
Yep.
and now I'm contending with the fact that I'm still too junior and super young in some ways, but I'll feel like old as hell,
Yeah.
which I'm in my late 40s, so you're not old as hell, you're super young in your 30s if you're listening to this in your 30s, and then we put all this pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out, and then your 40s historically is across all nationalities, all races, all genders, all socioeconomic status, all working statuses. Your 40s is your most stressful and miserable decade of life.
Oh, great. Can't wait till
So there are a lot of things I deal with as a 40-year-old, and I have to ask myself, like, is this a real problem or is it just because this is the most miserable decade of life?
Yeah.
But I can't tell if
Yeah.
my misery is valid or just biological, because clearly there's a
Yeah.
biological piece to this if
Yeah.
it covers such a like, everybody. And to me to understand that we are ever evolving, to understand that 50 apparently is supposed to be when things start getting really fun, and then when I talk to women in their 60s, they're like, "50 was great, but 60 is awesome." I'm sure there's a downturn at some point later on,
Yeah.
but when we can acknowledge that, then what we can do is actually work with it instead of fighting it or feeling broken or miserable or defective
Yeah.
for not
Yeah.
being consistently excited or pleased, whether it's with a job or a personal role. I talked to a friend who's a mom of a young kid, and we shared when my kids were young, I loved being a mother, I hated being a parent. I felt suffocated by the expectations of parenthood and the loss of freedom that came from being a parent. I became very ambitious the day I had my children, because suddenly I became aware of the whole world that was closed off to me because I was a mom of young children and primary caretaker, but I'm at an age where my kids are 17 and 14, and they're so much fun, and I can see and she's crying, and I get it. I'm like, even that shifts. Like, all of these things shift, and once you know it, you can breathe into it and work with it.
Yeah. I love that. I have my son's actually turning 1 next week, so what you're saying really deeply resonates. I realized very quickly postpartum that I was not meant to be a stay-at-home mother. I love my son, I love being with him, but the ambitious, the being able to have, like, tasks at the end of the day that you can kinda check off, it's very different when you have a kid.
And the women who are like I have a friend who it was the opposite. Like, her career was on the ascendancy. She had baby number 1, and she started feeling really miserable about having to go back to work. She had baby number 2, and then by baby number 2, she's like, "I can't do this," and she dropped her career. She is made to be a stay-at-home mom. She derives such joy. She's in her element. She's CEO of her family and her household is the highest role that she was made for, and she has 4 kids, and like, I'm like you. What I knew, and I'm very privileged and fortunate for this, is I did a flex. So I had my own practice, but there were certain days that I took off so I could spend time with my children. Even today, if there's a real need or a desire to make time to do stuff for them, with them, I can do it. That to me was the best of all worlds. And then there's some women who are like, I don't even want that. I want to be my professional adult, independent from parenthood self.
Yeah.
And then I can come back home and be the best of moms in these off hours.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Before you were talking about the transitions that you went through with your independent practices, so your therapy business and then your coaching practices, did you have any moments of fear as you were going through those transitions or questioning whether they were the right move for you at the time?
Oh my goodness, so many. I mean, the very first moment it took me a year and a half to say out loud that I didn't wanna be a therapist. That's 18 months that I spent secretly scared and unhappy, and 18 months that I would wake up every single day with one subtext in my head and another one coming out of my mouth because it was really hard. Like, I grew up with ADHD. I didn't know I had ADHD. I'm one that kid who I'm so lucky because I was internally driven and motivated. And so I would lock myself up in my bedroom and work for 5 or 6 hours to decode and encode what my peers could probably do in 30 minutes. So getting through school was tough. Getting into college was tough. The further I went, the better my grades got. I think my brain matured and my study habits matured, and then I was studying more and more things that were interesting to me, so it made things easier. The asks were different too, like reasoning versus spelling without making mistakes or memorizing facts. But I had invested so much time and energy and of my identity from an early age into this idea of becoming Dr. Wall, the psychologist, and I was gonna sit down to do coaching. I mean, in the therapy world, at least 12 years ago, 13 years ago, 14 years, coaching is like
Who does it?
it's like
Yeah.
everybody and their mom does it, right? And, like, they're not real fill in the blank. So I was terrified. I was terrified of what my family would think. I was terrified of what my colleagues would think. I kept on wondering whether I was betraying everything I'd worked towards. But once I made the transition, initially I tried to really divorce myself from the identity of Dr. Wall. Like, super hard because I didn't want people to come to me like a therapist. But then I realized every minute I invested in attaining that degree and then in learning the trade of and the art of being a therapist, I use that every single day
Yeah.
in the work I
S
do.
so relevant.
And then there were financial fears, so many financial fears. I mean, my business was in the black, running easily. I was at an inflection point. I could have started hiring other therapists. I was making this major leap, and for several years, I did not pay myself a salary as a coach. For several years, I used my therapy money to put money into my coaching business, which means I stopped paying myself retirement or anything like that. Like, it strained my marriage in I mean, not in terrible ways, but I wasn't contributing financially to the family at all for this dream and moving away from a very secure place of employment. Yeah, lots of fear.
Yeah, yeah. One of the reasons why I wanted to speak with you is that our paths are similar but different. I started in tech moved into coaching, and then I'm actually starting a mental health counseling program later this week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so both straddling I'm gonna be straddling the line of therapy in addition to coaching as well. One of the reasons I transitioned I've when I transitioned to coaching, I thought about therapy. I was like, "Oh, I wanna be," like, I always wanted to be a therapist. And then my son was born, and I was just like, "Now's the time to do it." Like, it's gonna be 2 years anyways, whether I'm doing coaching or doing therapy or whatever. But it feels like what we're talking about is kind of redefining success on our own terms, and what does success look like, and others even that we work with.
To me, you know this. This is like that's a big theme for me. And redefining success is something that happens at a macro and a micro level. So at a macro level, I might have shifted careers, but in a micro level, even in the therapy business, right? I started in one space and then I redefined what it meant to be successful by moving out of one area of specialty into another. For coaching, it's all kinds of things. It's like, am I only looking at finance as a metric, how much revenue I'm getting? Or am I looking what I've done more and more for me, one measure of success is the quality of people I'm attracting to my business. So I am now at a place where I am willing to say no to immediate money. And let's just be clear, folks, I'm not rolling in it. Right? I need that money. It's not this, "Oh, well, you can do that because we I would like the revenue." The revenue would allow me to hire more coaches or more help in the back end, but where I measure success, one of my metrics is, one, am I working with the kind of leaders I think are going to make significant positive change in the world? My husband's always like, "Why don't you just work with any corporate whatever?" I'm like, "I don't wanna work with any corporate whatever. I don't wanna support people who I don't think are doing good things in the world or who are in it," and there's nothing wrong with this, just to get the next title, the next promotion, the next raise. It's not that my clients aren't looking at that. It's that it's for a purpose. It's because with this, I can fill in the blank. A metric of success for me is because I'm so privileged in this space. Do I get to walk into work every day and love what I do? And I'm easy to tears, but I love what I do. Like, I love what I do, and I'm at a point where I'm pretty damn good at choosing who I work with. And once I sign on to work with you, once we agree, and there's a process to getting there, I am 100% committed, and I love my clients. I mean, I really like, they move me, they inspire me. I hope I have the same impact and effect on them. That is a huge metric of success. Then there's certain metrics like, can I charge for the value? That's a metric. But here's another metric of success. Can I ask for the monetary value I think I bring to the table
Mm.
and feel confident and not worry? Can I not undersell myself? That is a big metric. That's something I've been working on for years now.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs definitely struggle with that for sure.
And then
Yeah.
there's time. I was talking to one of my new clients yesterday, and we're looking at schedule stuff. Not because I'm gonna help her manage her time. She's a grown-ass adult, she can do that. Because we're gonna look at what's going on and why her time is scheduled the way it is and what's gonna keep her from doing the things she says she wants to do. But I showed her she showed me her calendar, so I showed her mine because of course, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, that white space in your calendar creates so much envy." And I'm like, "Well, not all the white space. Just because I'm not in a meeting doesn't mean I'm not working. A lot of that white space is used, but that is a metric of success for me too. It's like, am I killing myself and hustling? Yeah, maybe making as much money or more money, or have I constructed a life that is in alignment at least with what I'm preaching?"
Yeah. And it sounds like even the clients that you pick too have values that you want to that you believe in, that you wanna support, you wanna see them get somewhere.
Yeah, I don't, when you start in coaching, you might be there. It's like you got a pulse, you got a problem, you got a checkbook, we're good. Right? And that's okay. That's in a lot of businesses. You got a pulse, you got a problem I can solve, you got a checkbook. Let's go. But eventually,
Yeah.
for me, the shift was you've got a pulse, you've got a problem I actually want to solve.
Yeah.
You've got a checkbook, let's go. And then as it's changed, what it is there's a long process of me getting to know these people who might want to work with me or people I identify and I'm like, "Ooh, I really wanna work with them," because there are plenty of people who on paper looked great,
Yeah.
and then maybe I walk them through a coaching session and I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be miserable." And then
Yeah.
we'll have that conversation of going, Yeah, on paper, we're a perfect match. But the reality of our dynamics, of our chemistry, this is not going to work. So at this point, yes, I work with people who inspire me. I work with people who don't have a one-to-one concordance of value, but certainly there's an overlap. I work with leaders who are impact and excellence driven, but people, again, my one of my goals is to make sure that the people who are leading at the top are going to create better systems for everyone. And I want those people to be in this space, but not as martyrs.
Yeah, that is a theme that I hear a lot. A lot of folks that I support, they're driven, they're motivated, they're ambitious, but sometimes it comes at a cost. It's like over functioning.
Yeah.
And so it sounds similar perhaps to you where it's like, no, it doesn't need to come at a cost. You can have boundaries, you can have time, you can have other things in your life beyond work.
Yeah. Well, when you were introducing me, you mentioned something that we looked at. We redefined our mission this year just to align it. I set up my mission to be one thing a few years ago. This mission encapsulates the previous mission, but really focuses. I say we're here to ensure that the leaders who are capable of changing the world for the better, and the answer isn't can do it or stick around to do it. It's have the drive, the desire and the bandwidth to do it or the capacity to do it. So the idea is I don't want people to have to sacrifice themselves and go, it has to be me because if it's not me, it's no one. I want them to be in there and go, this is fun. I am here because I feel it's hard, but I'm challenged. I'm excited. This is the work I want to do. I have a life outside of here. This isn't costing me my relationships, my health, my whatever. Because if I can make sure that they have that sense of fulfillment and capacity outside, then they're going to have the sticking power I need to have them to have inside, of the system. So it is what I want to not see happen is when that premiere, the last premiere from New Zealand left, she left because she was pushed out, but she also left because she was at a point in her life where the demands of meeting the needs of herself and her family were not supported by the system within which she was functioning. And so here we have somebody who could have been an excellent leader who just was not able to keep the drive, the desire, and certainly didn't have the bandwidth to do it. And I'm glad for her that she chose to exit and do what was right for her, but I don't think the country's better for it. Right? And so that's what I wanna prevent. It's not keeping people in place because they're our last or only hope, but getting them to a place where it works for them to continue doing this work because they're the only ones who can.
Yeah, they choose to show up every single day and they're excited to go there and do the work and be there.
And sometimes that's in your own business, right? Because I know we're talking about, like, political figures, but I haven't yet worked with political figures, although we just talked about your mayor, so if she ever wants to come, if you add
Mayor of
any
Boston.
any day. But sometimes, like, I have clients who own their own businesses, but I know that the impact that they're making in their communities or through their businesses or on their teams, that's part of changing the system because they're the right kind of people. They're the role models we want out there. They're the voices we want out there. Sometimes it's somebody who's working in a big corporation, but my value system extends to corporations. So there's certain companies I will not work with because they do not align with their value systems. I mean, I'm sure there's a number, but I don't know what the number is. It's over 7 figures for me to say yes to certain companies. They haven't offered yet, so I'm glad to not be put in that dilemma of somebody going, "Here's $1,000,000 to work with," because I, on a value basis, would wanna say no. That to me is I mean, to get to a point in my career where I get to do and say that, that's a metric of success.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful metric of success. Do you primarily work with women or do you work with leaders of all different genders?
For a long time, it was primarily with women, as in 100% with women, unless I was talking to, a CEO or a leader or somebody on someone's team. In the last year, and it's not because of the politics, it's more because of wanting to and doing a lot of work with allyship and really wanting to support allies who were not necessarily women in the work that they're doing and the impact that they're making, so we've broadened that. But the still, like, the vast majority of the work I do is with women, and then I get to support allies outside of that space as well.
Yeah, I love that. For the women that come to you, are they usually coming because, like, I guess what are the common kind of challenges or pains that you're hearing? Are they burned out? Is it something else?
Was changed throughout time.
Mm.
If you'd asked me that
Mhm.
question at the beginning of 2025, I would have said it was still a lot of the women who were coming with one of my clients said we were talking, doing a testimonial for me the other day. And I said, "What made you decide to say yes when you said yes?" Because usually, as you know, people are dealing with whatever it is that brings them into coaching for months, sometimes years. And she said, I read a post you wrote on LinkedIn about how leaders, and especially women in leadership, they don't ask for help. They, like, white knuckle their way through things. And I was at a place where I was doing that, and I was like, "I can't do it anymore." So, is that burnout? Yes, maybe not, but a lot of them are coming in because there is this sense of, "This is so much harder than it needs to be," or, "I'm in this place where this should be amazing, and it doesn't feel amazing." And until recently, a lot of and so I'm maybe close to or at a breaking point. The women who are coming in right now, that's changed a lot. A lot of the women who are coming in right now are women who are like, "I'm doing really good." Right, like, on paper, my business is really good. My life is pretty good, and then they fall into what I like to think of as 3 categories. One, I think of as, like, my star athletes. They're like, "Everything's awesome. I'm at the top of my game. Life is great. I wanna continue operating at this level. I wanna continue growing, and nobody else understands that because I'm supposed to be here. I need somebody to call my BS out because everybody looks up to me and nobody dares. I'm that high. And I need people who are gonna say or see things that other people can't. So I want a thought partner. I want an advisor in my circle who's gonna hold that role for me so I can continue being awesome and doing awesome things. The other groups are what I like to call my Beyoncés, right? They're women who are like, "Listen, I'm at the top of my game, and I can continue doing this for a while, but I I need some spice. I need something new. I
Yeah.
need to record my country album. I
Mhm.
wanna leverage all the same skill sets, but it just like, something's missing. There's an alignment piece there where it's like, something's missing. I'm not unhappy yet, but I don't know how to think out of this space because I'm operating so well in this space and I could continue doing it." The other group, the last final group are women where that misalignment is much bigger. So they're like, "On paper, I should be happy. This is the one thing I've wanted my whole life." And I'm here, I'm like, there where I was maybe a few months ago, I had a moment like that for myself, but then also many years ago where you're like, "My career should be in its ascendancy, and somehow I'm not." Like, I'm either mentally exhausted or physically exhausted or just plain out bored, but I don't know, like, I don't know what's the move I need to make, and I need all the same things the star athletes need. So I need somebody who's going to hold me to a standard that's as high as the standard I hold myself, who's gonna dream bigger than me, who's gonna call my bullshit, who's gonna see things in a new way, who's gonna ask me questions, make me think in a way nobody else does. That's awesome. Like, if 3 years ago, if you'd asked me, that wasn't exactly the work I was doing. Now it is. I love it.
Yeah. I think it's so important. I remember when I was working in tech, I was a VP. I was, running the team, reporting into the CEO, and it gets so lonely at the top.
Mhm.
There's not a lot like, I could talk to some of the other VPs on my team, but other than that, it can be very lonely and isolating work, and so having that partner, advisor to be there for you, hold space for you, give you feedback, and also challenge you, because I think the authority piece, people on your team can be scared to speak up or challenge you when you're at that heightened level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how about this? Sometimes people love you so much, like,
Yeah.
you're a great leader, and they love you so much that they idolize you and don't see your blind spots. So I had this experience in, I think it was May, but it might have been February, I don't know, 2024. I attended a coaching intensive by my coach, Rich Litvin, in Santa Fe. And Rich does this great thing where he's in the room, but he's on stage and he'll pull other people on stage and he'll interview them or coach them live. He's constantly coaching. And he's coaching this guy named Niyama Ashong. And Niyama's talking about how he moved to San Diego. He's working on a book, and he mentioned the loneliness, and I started crying. And Roberta, I don't mean like sniffling, I mean uncontrolled
Mm,
sobbing. And I am sitting there sobbing, trying to not have snot all over my face in this room with 121 other people. Luckily, they're Kleenex boxes, so I get up, go under a chair, grab a Kleenex box, trying to, and the owner leaves the stage, and then somebody else comes on, and there's other conversations, and we walk back to our small group activity tables, and I am still sobbing uncontrollably, completely unable and unaware of why I am sobbing. It is probably the most vulnerable moment of my life because I'm an open book and I share lots of things, so things that feel vulnerable to other people aren't very vulnerable
yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
But I had no control and I didn't know where it was coming from, and it hit me. how lonely I was. I had another coach I worked with. I'd been in a program with Rich. I have a great group of girlfriends. I have a loving husband. It's not that I was alone. It's in my business, in my role. I was very lonely because I had nobody else who truly, in all of those groups, including my coach, I think, at the time, understood the level of isolation I felt in building this thing. Oh, and I also have an incredible program manager who I talked to about the things, right? I've continued following Rich and his communities because he brings great people together. Niyama happens to live in San Diego. I live in San Diego. It was serendipitous. So now he and I have been meeting every other week here in person to talk about business, to talk about the evolution in our minds, all the things and plugged in to groups. And I even joined a higher level with my coach so that I can be plugged in with other leaders in my field so that we can talk not only about the business of building a business, but everything that goes into your heart and your mind and your soul and the insecurities and the fears and the laughters and whatever else that comes in with this. That group that I'm now part of, it's called 4PC is the program. The idea is that we're there to call each other's bullshit out. The idea is that you're in a room with people who think and dream bigger than you, and each one of us thinks that somebody else in the room thinks and dreams bigger than us. So we're constantly confronted with possibility, but also the limitations of our own mind. The idea is these are the people who are going to say the thing nobody else says for you. And that there's a price point to it, but in many ways it's invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that the community component really helps with the loneliness. One thing I'm curious about, because the women that you support are high achievers, they're doing a lot. Are there any common, we're talking about the loneliness, I feel like that's almost a common outcome. I don't know if I would call it an outcome, like an outcome of being high achiever or like a symptom maybe of the system. Are there other things that you notice as well?
Yes. So one of the things I did and this is the other thing, I had created for my clients a community to come together. So my clients, whether they work with me individually or whether they're part of my lead executive group program, no matter what, they're onboarded into what we call our noteworthy circle. So we have boardroom calls twice a month. We're the peer advisory calls. We have the mindset and mindfulness group call. These are all group moments to come together. So we just had a boardroom call this morning and one of my clients writes in the chat, she goes, why do women struggle so much to prioritize themselves and take care of themselves?
Mhm.
And I wrote in the comments, I said, that is a much longer question to which I have lots of theories and answers, but that's another big one. I think at this level, it's the tendency to be so good at problem solving and so good at noticing and catching dynamics, potential issues down the road that you are constantly focused on addressing and meeting the needs of other people to the exclusion of your own. And what I would say would happen is one of two things. You have one category of people who it becomes their drug, right? Like meeting the needs of other people.
Being the helper
And
and fixer. Yeah.
yes, the knight in shining armor, right? I'm just gonna come in, I'm gonna save the day. I think there's another group of people, which is far more common in the women I see with, is that they've done it for so long, they've lost the ability to ask and certainly the ability to answer simple questions like, "What makes me happy? What would I do if I had 3 hours of time to myself?" And I was on a call yesterday with a client who, when it hit her that she's like, "I actually don't." She sat there, she's like, I can't answer that question." And
Mm.
there's a moment of embarrassment, which I wanted to pull her out of because it's very common,
Yeah.
but also this moment where she's like, I might cry over that. And I just stop. I'm like, this is so typical of reactive living and reactive leadership. We'll get you there. Like I have no worries about that. Well, we'll have that like within a year we have that question answered and addressed. But that moment where you realize you're so out of touch
It's disconnection.
Mhm.
You're so disconnected from yourself.
or you're so addicted to
Yeah.
activity and reaction that the spaciousness of actually having the life you say you want
Yep.
feels so scary that you sabotage yourself from having it.
Yeah. I've done a relational trauma and coaching program before, and what I think about is, like, our nervous system on a nervous system level of just when somebody, like, you're talking about the empty space on the calendar and your client having completely full like, calendar, their nervous system, like, freaking out because of the empty space, but it's actually what they need and what they want, but it's so new. It's just so new for them.
I know you do too. You have to with the work you've done. I mean, your background and your experience, both from coming from the tech world, but also like all the work you've done around building your coaching, your skills and knowledge. I always remind people it's going to get worse before it gets
Yeah.
better. And then like my job is to build enough trust with you that you're willing to be uncomfortable because I am going to push you to do what you have decided is right for you, which we have vetted. We're not just going because you say something, it's true. We vet that. But if I can build the right amount of trust, which is, even as a therapist was one of my top skills, then I can get you to do the things you really need to do for yourself. But it's going to suck in the short term. Like you're going to feel more anxious, more nervous, more frustrated, more until we get to that place where you're like, not I surrender, it's the wrong word, like, "I'm here, I got it. Okay, I got it. Like, this is actually working for me." But we have to break that's where the background I love that you're getting the degree in counseling because that's where the background of a psychologist comes in. You really have to rewrite all the fundamental internal narratives somebody has. It's not enough to say, "Okay, clear focus time on your schedule every day and, like, let's make time for lunch." It's not happening.
Yeah, and what I find too, a topic that I've been kind of sitting with lately is like deservingness because we get so many clients who are high achievers. Sometimes they get to their goal and they're like, do I even deserve this? And that's like a root mindset, limiting belief almost that they have that could have been in the background the whole time. And then it comes up when they hit the goal.
I have another client who's a CFO who's got a really good practice. Like she has her own business, her own consultancy, super successful, doing like really great from a business perspective, and actually does a really good job taking time for herself traveling, but will sometimes fall in that space of thinking that she has to earn the right or the privilege to take that by working extra time. So I recently confronted her on you take all this time off, awesome, but are you coming back and feeling like you have to work double or triple time to make up for it?
Yeah.
And the answer was yes, and I'm like, "That's what we need to rewrite." If you really are truly successful and good at what you do, and she is, like, this is not me because I like her, this is, like, what her clients
Yeah.
say about her, then we need to give you the space to when you're at work, do what you do and do it really, really well and have the impact you wanna have. And then when you walk away from work, not feel like you have to make it up. So you're a new mom for all intents and purposes, 1 year's pretty new. And, there's that thing that you do, I still do it, where we take time off from what are supposed to be non-work hours, evening activities, networking, all of those things, or we travel for work. And normally we should just be able to go do that and come back and reintegrate the house wherever it is, but we don't do that. What we do is we make sure that the food's ready, that all the appointments are made, we clean up the house extra. Maybe we're the ones calling in the orders for our family from the event that we're at. Like nobody else has a finger and a phone or even a voice to text ability to like tell Siri or Google to dial so and so's number. We come back and we start cleaning the dishes from dinner, even though we didn't eat dinner, we didn't cook it. We have to make it up. That is something I'm still learning not to do. But that's a deserving thing. It's like, oh, I need to earn the fact that I wasn't here during dinner time or during this time, or I'm about to leave for England next week and I'll be
Nice.
gone for 9 days. And I know, like,
Yeah.
sometime over the weekend, I'll start taking on extra chores to make up for the
Yep.
fact that I'm not home for 9 days, and then when I come back, I'll pick up
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
calling myself out, but these are the things that we wanna work on to me that are like the tip of the deserving.
Yeah, 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 that resonates so much, especially with I start orientation for grad school this weekend, so it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and what am I doing? I'm already planning, like, food to cook ahead of time so my husband and my son have it. I talked to a client earlier today, actually. We called it, like, it's almost the overhead of motherhood that we take on just unconsciously and is running in the background all the time. So even if you are working a full-time job, you also have the full-time job of motherhood too, and running the house and being the CEO of the house.
And it's unfortunate because I really think about it for our spouses, not that they would love it because it's easier to just have people do stuff for you, but it's really what it communicates is a lack of trust.
Mm,
What
mm,
I'm saying when I do all that extra work, what I'm really communicating is 2 things. 1, either I'm communicating, "I don't trust you to get it done properly," or 2, I don't trust you to be enough of a grown adult to tolerate or to accept that there is a shift in responsibility depending on where things go, or somehow I value your time more than I value mine. So when you're working and you have to go for work, that's okay. I'll also take care of the house, but when I go, it's not as valuable, therefore, I'm gonna make up for it.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of it just looks like a single behavior, but it can represent so many things, and it's not just being micromanaging or being a caring, loving partner.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I could talk to you forever, but I do wanna be mindful of time. How can listeners connect with you if they wanna reach out, if they wanna be in touch with you?
Oh, Roberta, I really appreciate that. One place is you know what? I was gonna say on LinkedIn, but actually I'm trying to write more on Substack, and I can share the publication's name is Dr. Wall Says.
Okay.
So DR Wall for the Dr. Wall Says, and Power Pause is the name of the actual publication. I and then the other one would be my website. I'm gonna tell you if you jump on my website, we're in the process of redoing it right now, so it still really speaks to who we were serving maybe 2, 3 years ago, but if you've listened to the episode, you know what work I do, and that's Noteworthy Inc., like INC, like incorporated, .co.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. So appreciate it. It was so lovely to have you.
I'm excited to be here, and congratulations on the grad program, and if you
Thank
ever need to
you.
vent, just reach out.
I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode landed with you, feel free to pass it along to someone who might need it too. You can leave a review, subscribe, or just keep tuning in. We're figuring it out together. And remember, your story, your voice, your becoming, it all matters.